Hi, all. Welcome in. We'll just wait a little bit as people start filtering in. Welcome. We'd love to hear where you're calling in from. We've got Jake here in the chat today. He is ready to answer questions throughout today's call. So feel free to jump in that live chat. Tell us where you're calling in from. We want to hear from you. Today, we will be going through how to set up your invoice settings and business settings, and then we will walk through creating an invoice, PDFing an invoice, and sharing an invoice. At the very end of today's call, we will be doing a Q&A, but feel free to ask questions as they come up so you don't forget them, and we'll save some of them for Q&A, and feel free to ask and we will answer in the chat as well. If you need help after today's session, you will receive a video of today's session, so you'll be able to reference that recording. But we also are always available via live chat if you have questions, or if you want to email us, you're free to do that as well. So we are going to jump in to today's topic. So starting with invoicing. So I have created a new account here. And so we're going to start from the very beginning when it comes to settings. So starting off, I'm going to go into the top left corner of my account and click into my settings. And then I'm going to navigate to invoices on the left-hand menu. If you go to invoices, you will also be prompted to set up invoicing. So if you go there first, you can click to get to the settings, and it will also bring you to this page. So either way, you're going to end up here, and we're going to start out by filling in our business information. So here at the top, it's automatically added my business name in because I did add that when I created my account. And now you can fill in your EIN and your statutory information. This is completely optional, but if you are in the US and you have a business number or business information and disclosures, definitely fill that out. Below that, we're going to enter my email. So we will enter my email right there. And then if you'd like, you can add your phone number. Again, this is optional. Below that, you're going to enter your company address. So make sure that you enter your company address there. We'll enter our city and our state and our zip code. And then we're going to click done to save this, and that is going to bring us to our main settings page. So we're going to click done right here at the bottom, and we're all saved. Now we set up here. So we will follow this along. So it wants us, let's see, to set up our, let's say, settings. Back to that, invoices. Here we go. So back to this invoice page, we have some preferences that we can kind of set up here. At the very top, you can add your logo that will show on the PDF version of your invoice. That will also show up on the client dashboard invoice version. So whatever logo you want there. And then here, payment methods. So if you want, you can add any payment methods you want, Venmo, Wire, Zelle, whatever you want to offer to your clients, you can. They can also, of course, pay by check or cash, and you can just manually mark those off as paid. We do offer the ability to offer your clients credit, debit, ACH bank transfer using what's called Programa Pay. This is completely optional. You do not have to sign up for Programa Pay. You saw that it kind of led us to set that up. You do not have to set it up. It's completely optional. But just know that the option is there if you do want to utilize it. Otherwise, we can just offer our payment methods that we're writing in here. So following that, we do have space for a footer. So typically in this section, I like to put my client terms and conditions. This is going to show up at the bottom of every single invoice that I send. That is optional. Again, you do not have to add your terms and conditions. You can put whatever you want there. If you want to just have a nice little message to them, that's fine too. And then your email details. So this is kind of a default setting. If you like to have a default subject and message, you can. So I might say Studio Claire invoice and thank you. Perfect. You don't have to add anything there. You can add a message and you can add a subject when you're ready to send the invoice, or you can edit it at that time. So if you want to add more of a message when you send it, that's totally good too. Right below that, we have our time zone. You're going to want to ensure you select your correct time zone so that your issue dates and due dates are all correct. Below that, we have our invoice number. So it is automatically setting it to minimum 5 digits and start number of 1. If you do have invoices in QuickBooks or in Xero and you are making the connection between Programa and one of those accounting platforms, then it is best used to start with the next number. So if you are on invoice 99, then your start number here should be 100. If not, then we're totally good to start with just 1. It's up to you. You can change the prefix, you can change the separator, and you can change the minimum quantity of digits, but totally up to you. And you may want to consult your accountant on that. Right below that, we have our split payments. So Programa allows you to split a payment up to 6 times, and you can split that based on a dollar amount or percentage. So if you typically in your business offer a deposit and balance, then percentage might be a great choice for you, but totally up to you there. I personally typically have it on percentage. You can come back here and change that at any time if you have a one-off invoice that is a dollar amount split payment. If a client wants to pay half one way and half the other, a specific dollar amount on one card, then you can set it up that way as well. No problem. Below that, we have our payment terms. So we have our preset 71430. To add new here, we are going to click that little plus button, and then you'll be able to name this however you want. So if we want to offer a 60-day pay period, we can do that as well. And then what you're going to do is just either type in 60, or you can use these little plus and minuses on the side to add or subtract from that. It is a maximum of 60. And then we will click create down there. And now that will be a drop-down option when we produce an invoice. Below that, you have item descriptions. So this is what's going to show in the line item of your invoice. So if you want it to just be the product name or product description, brand SKU, or color, you can have whatever combination you want there. Just keep in mind, if you don't typically share the brand and supplier information, we probably are going to want to turn off brand and SKU. So just keep that in mind. And again, you can change this at any time. And then down here at the bottom, we have some new invoice automations. These are really, really cool. I'm super excited about these. So we have 2 options when an invoice is sent and when an invoice is paid. So if we want to add products from our schedule, and when we send that invoice off, we want the statuses of all of those items to switch to invoiced, then we're going to select products move to invoiced status. And then once the client pays the invoice with those products, if we want the status to automatically switch to paid, then we will turn this on for products move to paid status. You can, of course, turn this off if you don't want it on, but up to you. It is really nice to have kind of those automations in place so you don't have to worry about what has my client paid, what have they not paid. It's all automated for you. If you are not using Programa Pay, we will just manually mark those invoices off as paid, or if your client pays by check, cash, wire, any of those options, then we will just manually mark the invoice off as paid, and that will change the status on all of those products as well. So following that, we will now get into actually creating an invoice. So this automatically saves. Don't worry about having to hit a save button there. We're going to head back to our main page, and then we're going to click this little financial bump down to get to invoices. So now we have a full invoice page that we can actually work with, which is super exciting. So here at the top, you can see that it is prompting to set up Programa Pay. Again, that's optional, only if you want to. The option is there, but we'll just click not now. And then at the top here, you get a little bit of an overview on all of your invoices. So we can see any outstanding, overdue, upcoming, paid, and any payouts. If we click into the view payment section of the payouts, this is where you will be able to deal with any refunds or disputes and be able to see any past payouts. So if we are accepting credit, debit, ACH, you'll see those here. You do have several filtering options. So if you want to look at all draft invoices, issued, partially paid, paid, overdue, or void, you can. And then to the left of the create invoice button here, you have even more filters. So if you want to look at a specific project or a specific invoice number or client name, you can. So now we were going to click that create invoice, and we will start by choosing our project. I don't have any clients here yet, so we're going to select this create client, and I will add my client in. So there we are. Okay, and then we'll select our country. Did I skip it completely? There we are. And then we'll add our city and our postal code and our state. You do have to completely fill this out. And then we're going to click create client in the bottom right hand corner. So now we're ready, and we're going to click create there. Now we are able to name these invoices whatever you want. So that's totally up to you. Our client's name is automatically there, and you can see our invoice tax rate has automatically carried over. So this is set at the project settings level. You can set up more project tax rates, or if you are a QuickBooks or Xero user and you have that set up in your integration settings, then those tax rates will carry over and you can apply that to your project. You'll want to make sure that your tax rates are coming over from your accounting platform. And then here we're selecting those payment terms. So there are all those terms we created. You'll select one of those. If you want to, you can add a note right there, totally up to you. You can see here my footer terms and conditions automatically came in as a default, and we are ready to add some product. So I'm going to select this add from schedule. Here at the top, you will be able to switch schedules if you'd like. So here I have materials, schedule. If you are using our approval process, it can be super helpful to be able to use this little filter here. We can filter by status and select only what's been approved by our client, or if we want to filter by supplier or brand, you can do that as well. We're just going to add all of these products here. I also like to add my contracts and fees into a schedule as well. This just makes it really easy for me to track what's been paid and what hasn't been paid and what fees my client owes me. We can also add time entries to an invoice. So here I will add my time entry. You can filter by date. So if you want to look at the last 7 days, last 30, the current month, or here you can select a custom date range. Here's the time I have tracked so far. If I had multiple team members working on this project and tracking time, I could select them individually. If I have maybe a junior designer that is being billed at a different rate, then I could add them in individually, add their price per hour, and it's going to calculate it for me. Or you can just add all of your team's time at once. So we are going to add my time in there, and then all I'm going to do is enter my price per hour, and it is going to calculate it for me. You can see it's also calculating my tax. If, again, you're a QuickBooks or Xero user, you will also see your map income accounts coming in here as well. And then lastly, we can add a custom line item. So this is great if you have a one-off fee or something that you want to manually enter into the invoice. So I'll enter a travel fee here. I'll say it's $100. There we go. And we're good to go. So now that I've added this all to an invoice, you might not always add service fees and product all to one invoice, but just so that you understand exactly how you can add all of these different things in. And then right down here, we have the option to add a discount. So this can be added again on a dollar amount or percentage. So if you are giving your client a credit or a discount on this invoice, that's very easy to do. And then from there, if you'd like, you can preview and PDF the invoice right from here, or we can click send invoice to add a little more information. So my client's emails coming in automatically. I can CC anyone I'd like. That email subject that I set up in my settings is automatically pulled in along with that default email message. Again, I can edit or add to this here if I'd like. You can see here it is once again prompting me to enable Programa Pay to accept payments. That option is still there. For ACH bank transfer, it is a 1% fee capped at $25, and credit is a flat 3.5% fee. You can pass on those transaction fees to client. It's just a button that would usually show up right here so that we can pass that fee on. But again, you do not need Programa Pay in order to use our invoicing system. We can see my alternate payment methods are showing up right there. Those are those defaults that I set in the settings. And then here we have the option to toggle on split payments. This is where we can split a payment up to 6 times based on a dollar or percentage. So if I had a 50% deposit, 50% balance, then I could add it like that. So we'll do that. So we'll add a deposit due today and a balance. And that's going to be the other half there. And we will make that due tomorrow. Perfect. So now from there, if I wanted to, I could again preview and PDF this invoice straight from here, or I can send it, and that is going to send an email directly to my client. Once that has been sent, I can PDF the sent version as well, or I can post this directly to my client's dashboard by clicking share here and your client's email. You'll just toggle on publish to client's dashboard, and you can add other emails here as well if you need to share it with anybody else. So PDF version of that invoice is going to look something like this. So this would be your logo. We have our information on the invoice name, the date, the invoice number, our studio info, our client's email and info. And then we have a description, amount due, and then we have our alternate payment methods down here at the bottom, along with our client terms and condition footer. We can also check out the client dashboard version by copying their link, and we will paste that in a new tab here. And here's our client's dashboard. Scrolling down, there's that invoice. We can say it's issued. And when we come in here, our client can also download the PDF version of this invoice, and they also can see the payment methods, footer, and those deposit balance due dates, outstanding amount, etc. And again, that would be your logo. If our client pays by cash or check or Venmo, we can mark this off as paid. You can mark off the entire invoice as paid at once, or we can mark a deposit as paid and then later the balance as paid. You also have the option to void or mark it as uncollectible. We will mark the deposit as paid. So there we go. Now that deposit is showing as paid. And then once the client pays the entire amount, we can mark that balance as paid as well. Because we have those automations set up, our client's schedule is also updating statuses. So we'll be able to see that we have partially paid that invoice before it would be invoiced. And then once the client has paid that balance, these will say paid. So you don't have to worry about manually tracking that, which is really great. Okay, so that is kind of a quick overview on invoices. I am going to now invite Jake up onto the stage, and we will be happy to answer a little bit of Q&A. So come on up, Jake. Hello.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good. Okay.
Perfect. All right. So we have a few questions in the chat and that were submitted. So first question, are we no longer required to have a Stripe account?
That's right. You are no longer required to have a Stripe account. You can now use invoicing without Stripe, which is really nice.
Wonderful. Next question, is it possible to include items that have different tax rates in the same invoice? So items that have subject to maybe local taxes, but aren't subject to state taxes or vice versa.
Interesting. So we're talking about essentially adding two products to an invoice that have different tax rates. Is that right?
Yes. So something like a piece of furniture that's fully taxed, and then maybe a delivery service that only is taxed at a local rate, but not a
Yeah.
state or federal rate.
Yeah. So we can turn tax off on individual items. Do you know, Jake, if we can do because we can do a combo tax rate, can we switch a tax rate on just an individual item?
Yes, so we can do it at the schedule level, and
Oh,
it'll automatically get pulled in, or if you had multiple taxes set up
yes. You just
in our
can't.
demo account,
You just can't
we'd
read it.
yeah, we'd be able to change it at the invoice level if it's set up in your account. So it definitely is possible.
Ew.
Wonderful. Okay. Next, does this update link to QuickBooks?
Yes, absolutely. So if you go into your settings and then head to integrations, you can still connect your QuickBooks just as normal. You'll be able to sync your tax rates, sync your income accounts, and then all invoices created in Programa will automatically sync into your QuickBooks account. But if you produce it in QuickBooks, it will not sync here. So that is still absolutely an option, and it is great to use their really robust accounting features alongside Programa.
Absolutely. And then another question, how do we include terms and conditions to reflect using Programa?
Yeah. So there's kind of two different areas that you might want to add terms and conditions. So if we go to your studio settings on the left side here, you do have space for terms and conditions there. Those can be applied directly to your schedule. So that's a really great idea when the client goes to that schedule, being able to see your terms and conditions. And then separately, if we go to our invoice settings, you also have space for a footer, which is where I'm putting my terms and conditions on my clients' invoices.
Perfect. And then the next question is, are there reporting features for invoices?
There's not full reporting features yet, so we can't necessarily run a report on invoices as of yet, which is kind of where that QuickBooks piece comes in. We do have kind of an outlook here where we can see what's happening in our invoices, if we have any unpaid, if we have upcoming, but that is about the extent of reporting, but more to come on that.
Perfect. And then we have a question about retainer workflows on invoices.
Yeah.
So let me just parse that one out. Yeah, so retainer accounts and invoicing material product invoices off a retainer.
So I'm assuming that we're charging retainer and then we're putting that towards purchases is what it sounds like. So kind of a couple different workflows there, and it really depends on how you bill your retainers. And I know there's kind of a whole lot of options there, but we can add it to a schedule so that it's kind of trackable in that way. That's a really great way to be able to mark off how much of it has been paid, if it's completely paid, if it's partially paid. You can even, sometimes I see people add it as a negative so that we can kind of deduct from that overall cost, and that makes it really easy to track in a schedule. When it comes to invoices, you can add negative line items to an invoice, but we can also use that credit feature if you'd like. kind of difference there is some studios like to be able to see the retainer line as a custom line item or as a schedule item in the actual invoice itself. And then that is set as that's set as a whole number. And then you have the products underneath set as negatives. So essentially we're deducting from that overall retainer. Alternatively, you can put that retainer into the discount section as a dollar amount rather than a percentage, so that the total of the invoice is not the actual total of the products, because we're actually redacting that retainer that the client's already paid. So that's kind of both ways of being able to track product against retainer.
Yeah, perfect. And the good news is we are in development on a retainer tool. So the team is hard at work at building that out for all our users. So more to come on that for sure. All right, next question. Invoice due upon receipt. Is there a place that we can create a custom due date?
A custom due date on the invoice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to this invoice that I kind of drafted. So we have those payment terms that you set up. You can create those whenever you want. So if I have a case where I am having my client pay by, they have 60 days to pay or something like that, I could do it that way. Alternatively, let's think. So you do have to add a payment term. So there's not really a way around not putting a due date on something. You do have to put a due date. So what you could do is you could put the maximum number of days, like a 60-day, or you could put a 0-day. And then as the term, you could just name it upon receipt instead of putting, like we did, 7 days, 60 days, whatever. You could just name it upon receipt so that at the top of their invoice, they're seeing due upon receipt. They're still going to see the date, but they'll be able to see that due upon receipt.
Yep. Perfect. All right. We have a few questions about the dual tax rates again. So can you show us where on the invoice we can change a tax rate? So I know in our account here, we don't have two tax rates to show, but maybe we can just show where it would be.
I mean, we've got time. Let's add it in. So to add your tax rates, we're going to come right here, and I'm about to make a fake tax rate for, I don't even know. Let's put New York. I don't know what the New York tax rate is, honestly, but let's guess that it's 8.5. And we'll add that tax rate in. So I have my California tax rate and I have my New York tax rate. So we're going to go back, and at the schedule level, let's start there. We'll go to my schedule here, and I'm going to go to the financial section. And if I click this little down button, we can edit the project tax rate, and I can turn off tax for that item. And then if I go to my invoices, let's open that same invoice. You have another drop down right here, which I don't know if it's going to let me. Oh, it's not. It's not finding my tax rate. But you can see, there we go. So I can add both tax rates there and then go back to my invoice and click that little down button, and there's my New York tax rate. Or I can put just one. So there's options to kind of move that around. You also, in your tax rate settings, you do have the ability to also do a combination rate. So if you live somewhere that has a combination tax rate, you can absolutely add that as well by selecting combo here at the top. Again, if you're a QuickBooks or Xero user, we're going to use our QuickBooks or Xero tax rates so that everything's syncing correctly. But if you're not, then you can manually enter them here.
Yeah, perfect. Question about time tracking features. So does your tracked time connect directly to your invoice?
Yes. So there's two ways to track time. You can either do it with our stopwatch, which is found in our project management, or you can manually enter time here. So I only have one time entry here, but my invoice is pulling this exact time So in my invoice, if I select time right here, so you'll see this add time entry, that's the center button. I'm going to click that, and then you can filter by date and by team member. So if I had multiple team members, I could pull in multiple team members or just a single team member, or I can filter by the last 7 days, the last 30 days, my current month, or a custom date range. So I could come all the way back to March and come to all the way here, and then I'll select that time. So that's 5 hours and 30 minutes. And then here, all I have to do is enter my price per hour, and it is calculating it for me. And then if I need to, I can turn off tax for that one item.
Perfect. All right. Another question. If Programa only talks to Xero or QuickBooks, and a user is sending invoices out in QuickBooks, separate from Programa, how will the numbers reconcile?
Yes, good question. Best use case is to create your invoices in Programa so that your numbers are in order. If you want to, you can send an invoice out of QuickBooks and create them in Programa if for some reason you need to keep something separate. But best use case is to stick with one or the other. But just keep in mind, if you produce something in QuickBooks, it is not going to show in Programa. So a QuickBooks or an invoice that is sent from QuickBooks will not be in your Programa account. So best use case is to produce all of your invoices in Programa so that everything is in order and your invoice numbers are correct. We don't want any duplicates.
And it should prompt you for a sync error to let you know the invoice number is taken, so you can just quickly adjust the number in Programa without having to pop into QuickBooks to take a look as well.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Let's see, we have a few more questions. So hours invoices, just exporting detailed hours.
Yeah. In the case that your client needs kind of a sheet of what you were doing during your time, we can go into time tracking. You can filter as needed. So if we want to filter by a specific project, then we can. And then right here, you can export that as an Excel spreadsheet. You can also always click into these and add additional notes if you want to explain further what you were doing during that time. Another great use case that I've seen is people exporting their time tracking out at the end of every project and seeing and where we spent the most time and how we could be more efficient with our time. So it can be a great tool, even if you're not billing for time.
Perfect. And then we had another question, not really related perfectly to invoices, but just about creating purchase orders and how those differ from invoices.
Yeah. So your purchase orders are not connected to any sort of payment method. So you are not gonna pay the purchase order and nobody's gonna pay the purchase order to you. There's not like a pay button or anything like that. The way we have it in invoicing, a purchase order is meant to go directly to your supplier. So essentially, this is me officially saying, I would like to purchase this item from you. Here's the spec sheet. Here are all the details. I want it in this color and this size and this material, so that your supplier can tell you, okay, you can purchase it. Here is the invoice. You or your client pays that invoice. You reconcile it and you're good to go. And you have that product on the way and you can mark it off in procurement, so that you can track it from beginning to end. But essentially, that's the difference. One is going to our supplier. The other is going to our client, and one has a payment method option if you want. The other doesn't.
Perfect. And then we have a question. Can we import the cost of goods sold from an invoice into QuickBooks? So the trade price that we would pay for an item that we've sourced from in Programa into QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you know the answer to that? You're the QuickBooks Pro.
No. So the cost of the goods sold would remain in Programa in your schedule as your trade price. And then that expense would get brought into an accounting platform like QuickBooks or Xero. So you can still make that reconciliation in QuickBooks. So you can view your margin and profits in QuickBooks, but you can still see your profit margin in your schedule in Programa. But the cost of the goods sold doesn't pass through our invoicing tool, but you can still make that reconciliation happen in QuickBooks or Xero.
Yeah. And you'll always be able to see a breakdown at the top of your schedule with the profit of the entire schedule. And then you also have your net profit on each individual product as well. So you can kind of get a good look at what's happening within your schedule as well.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. I think we've answered all of our invoicing questions, unless anybody else has a last minute invoicing question they wanted to pop in the chat. But I think we've covered everything today.
Cool. Great. Thank you so much, Jake.
Yeah.
So if anybody else has any questions after today's call, you're of course always welcome to reach out to us via live chat. Jake is in there ready to answer your invoicing questions. You also always have access to us via email. You can email us at support@programa.design. We also have fantastic help guides that you can watch and look through. Super, super in depth there. So definitely check out our help center for more on that. Yeah, and that's all for today. We hope you got all of your questions answered and learned a lot. And if you need anything, let us know. Thanks so much. Bye.